What's up everyone? My name is Cam. I am a certified dog nutritionist and founder of The Dog Nutritionist. This is my dog food review of Millies Wolfheart Countryside Mix. This is, I think, their most popular food. If this isn't the particular recipe that you've bought from Millies Wolfheart, don't worry, they all follow a very similar ingredient pattern. Just follow along and it will help you understand why Millies Wolfheart have made the recipe that they have and the quality of the ingredients in general. What I'm going to do is obviously discuss the ingredients. We're also going to talk about the cooking method because that affects the overall nutritional value of each ingredient. It's not as simple as just to say, oh, look at those lovely ingredients, that's what my dog is getting, because that is not what your dog is getting. Your dog is getting the processed version of that recipe. I'm also going to talk to you about the ideal diet for a dog so you can have that information. Understanding what's healthiest for your dog in terms of nutrition is probably the most important part of dog ownership, because nutrition is the biggest determinant of health. We know that now with all the research that's coming out in human nutrition, and in drips and drabs, research is coming out in canine nutrition just proving how important gastrointestinal health is and how much diet plays a role in the development of so many health issues and how getting it right can prevent that. So please do watch that, and also at the end I'm going to talk about how you can implement the healthiest possible diet in the cheapest possible way. So without further ado, let's get into the countryside mix. So let's see how much it costs. It's pretty expensive. It is pretty expensive. £6 a kilogram, you could be making fresh food for that much. Freshly prepared duck, 23%. Freshly prepared lamb, 20%. Sweet potato, then dried duck, 15.5%. Potato, dried lamb, 3.5%. Dried rabbit, 3.5%. Duck fat, 3.5%. Lucerne, and then lamb gravy, 1%. So freshly prepared duck and freshly prepared lamb at 43% combined. It's pretty good. I would like to see the freshly prepared meat up at 60% minimum. That would be more appropriate for a dog. You then have dried duck at 15.5% and dried lamb at 3.5%, dried rabbit 3.5%. So that works out at around 21.5% powdered food. So a fifth of this food is coming from powdered meat. The way in which they create powdered meat is by cooking it down into a powder that massively affects the quality of the ingredient. It's nowhere near as nutritious as when it was a whole bit of meat. It's now a powdered bit of meat, and actually it's just a really low quality protein source that dog food companies use. I just don't recommend it because it is so highly processed. Then we have lamb gravy at 1%, and then after that, because it says lamb gravy 1% and dog food ingredients go in descending order, everything after that will make up less than 1%. And so you have minerals, dried apple, burdock root, dried chamomile, dried carrot, dried cranberry, dried dandelion, all of these powdered ingredients that make up less than 1% or 1% or less. They are more marketing ingredients. You also have glucosamine at 175 milligrams per kilogram. That's such a small amount that it's not really going to provide the health benefits that you'd like to get from glucosamine. You then have some additives as well to make up for the fact that the ingredients aren't that great, like manganese, zinc, iron. Yeah, not great. Really not great. There's a lot of protein in this, so I'm just going to quickly do the maths. 38.5, 44.5, 48.5, 59, 60. 2. So around 32% of the food will be coming from carbohydrates still, which is a lot. I would like to see that down at 20%. So what do I think about Millies Wolfheart? Well, whilst they do use kind of a lot of, or not a lot, but they use meat, a good proportion of meat, actually more than you think comes from a powdered form of meat, which is not good. You also need to factor in that all of this is then cooked and turned into a little meat biscuit, which further reduces the quality and nutrition content of the ingredients. Why is that important? Just highly processed foods we know aren't healthy. In human nutrition, we're seeing more and more studies connecting processed foods to so many health issues, and it's so important to understand what the healthiest diet is for a dog, and that's what we're going to talk about now. I'm going to give you the simple and quickest version of how we know what the healthiest diet for a dog is. And without being condescending, to understand this part, you really need to understand what a dog is. And what a dog is how a wolf has evolved into the dog. It is the difference between the two that determines what a dog is. The wolf is the ancestor species of the dog. We domesticated the wolf, and the adaptations to the wolf, the changes that were made, determine what a dog is. From a biological standpoint, dogs have changed their ability to digest non-meats and sociability. Those are the two genetic differences between dogs and wolves. The two main, glaringly obvious genetic differences. The sociability part comes from us breeding the wolves that didn't shred our kids to pieces. The second part, the ability to digest non-meats, this is the most important part of what they should be eating, of course. Different dog breeds have developed different abilities to digest non-meats, and this is due to their exposure to non-meat diets, depending on the geography of where they came from. So the Saluki, for example, that was originated in the Middle East, they are an ancient dog breed, 9,000 years old, and they've had the most amount of time and exposure to non-meats, to more starch-rich diets, which means they have more of the AMEB2 gene, a gene that allows for the pancreas to produce amylase to digest non-meats. What do wolves eat? A range of meats, raw bone or a calcium source, some grasses, and maybe some berries. We still need to follow that pattern of a range of fresh foods, maybe 3 different types of meats that they get rotated around the year. You can do more than that. You need some organ, because that's like the multivitamin. The meat being the protein, they get fat from, they get energy from the fat. And then you have the raw bone. Dogs have a higher calcium requirement than other animals because they've evolved from this lineage of bone crunching carnivores. It wasn't just the wolf, their predecessor, that ate bones. It was literally like 4 species that came before the wolf. There's 50 million years of evidence of these bone crunching carnivores, and you can still see that evidence in your dog's mouth. Quite literally, those razor sharp molars are for crunching teeth. Other evidence that dogs should be chewing bones is that periodontal disease is one of the most common issues that face modern dogs, and that's because they're not chewing bones, they're not getting raw bones. Then you have the non-meats, and you can use the vegetables that your dog enjoys, or the ones that provide health benefits. You can use fruits like berries, which have been shown to be anti-cancer, apple, just incorporate these non-meats into your dog's diet. In terms of carbohydrates, I don't recommend you go over the 20% mark, and try to use squash and sweet potato, which are easiest on your dog's digestion. That really is how you piece together an understanding of your dog's digestion. It is the difference between the wolf and the dog, and the differences aren't that big. Then you look at your own dog, you incorporate ingredients that work for them into that model, and that's how you keep your dog super, super healthy. All of that stuff on balancing all these diets, the NRC, National Research Council, the AAFCO feeding requirements, the FED-IAF feeding requirements, it's all nonsense. It's all total bullshit designed to scare you off making food. Look at any animal that exists. They just get a range of different things, but they stick to a general balance. If you want to understand how to do that, or if you need recipes, get the Ultimate Doggy Handbook. I don't know why I call it that. Get the Ultimate Dog Food Handbook. And also I've got a free dog nutrition course here on YouTube that you can watch to learn more. All right, so that's how we know what the healthiest diet for a dog is. How can you do that at a cost-effective rate? Because meat prices are extortionate. Dogs need lots of meat. They need some variety. How can you do this when you wouldn't feed yourself a diet that high in meat and you wouldn't spend that much money on your own diet? Well, you can source cheap meat online. I buy venison from a venison wholesaler. I buy the offcuts, which are the bit that the butcher, it's like, I found that butchers are pretty lazy. They're not like razor sharp with trimming the fat off of the deer, and they leave loads of meat on there. And you buy the offcuts and you just separate the meat from the fat, and it only works out to be about £5 per kilogram. You have all this lovely wild reared venison meat for £5 a kilogram, and that is pretty much cheaper than any dog food you can get. Once you can source meat for around £10, less than £10 a kilogram, you can make a homemade meal for your dog cheaper than buying a pre-made meal. And those meals are made from fresh foods, ingredients your dog likes, so healthy, so natural, so healthy. It's going to keep them out of the vet, and it's going to save you money in those vet bills, and it's most importantly going to mean that you get to spend as long as possible with your dog. So we know what a healthy diet is. It is possible to do in a cost-effective manner if you do the research into meats, sourcing good quality cheap meats, and if you have the recipes, which you can find in the Ultimate Dog Food Handbook. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and if you have, I've got loads more on my channel. Please do watch them and share them with your friends if you think that they need some dog nutrition advice, because everyone does. Everybody does.